AskReddit. Teachers, what was the best smartass response from a student you have heard? Part 2. My friend Brian was in his home class back in high school. The topic of abortion came up as everyone was asking each other why they're either against or pro-abortion. We're in Texas, so you can assume the ideas and opinions of the majority of the class. So my friend is very intelligent and a quiet fellow, minding his own business in a corner of the room. The class turns to him to get his opinion on the matter. Someone: Brian, you've been quiet over there. So what about you? Are you pro-abortion? Brian: well, I wouldn't say I'm pro, but I'm pretty good with a coat hanger. Jaws drop. The room is silent as everyone is registering what just happened. Glad I made it to school that day. There was a kid in my brother's speech class who gave his persuasive speech on pro-abortion. Not pro-choice, pro-abortion. Apparently, it was hilarious. Pro-choice? No, I'm not pro-choice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like killing babies, but I don't want to give women a choice. Just yesterday, actually. One of my classes is fun in that we give each other hard times, but all in good fun and accomplish a lot. A girl starts giggling uncontrollably for no reason, and she's a bit of an airhead, so I asked her if she saw something shiny and if that entertained her. Another boy jumps in and says, "Yeah, mister, your head." I'm going bald. I wanted to pretend to be mad, but it was just too funny. I have a smartass response from a teacher story to share. In 8th grade science class, we were learning about the planets, and the usual class clown, let's call him K, was making the usual immature jokes about Uranus. Our teacher, Mr. P, who was a younger, pretty chill guy, wasn't having it. So Mr. P tells K to go outside. When K asks which door he should use to leave, Mr. P first says it doesn't matter, but quickly comes back with an answer and says, "You know what? Why don't you go out the back door since you like Uranus so much?" The whole class went crazy. Definitely one of the best teacher responses to dumb student comments that I've witnessed. I feel like the student purposely set the teacher up for that. I went to a Catholic school. Very strict, lots of beatings. 2 friends and I had been caught by one of the more violent teachers, Mr. Murphy, off school grounds climbing in the neighboring estate trees. After school detention, we're lined up in his office, where he is screaming at us for our bad behavior, letting the school down, etc. We accept a beating or 500-word essay if we are lucky, or perhaps he'll just punch us a bit. He turns to my friend Dave and shouts, "Do you climb trees in your neighbor's trees at home?" Dave replies, head down and sounding remorseful, "No, sir." "Why not?" "They haven't got any, sir." My other friend literally ended up crying with laughter on the floor. I was shaking with laughter, and Dave just stood there, head down, emotionless. Mr. Murphy stood there, momentarily lost for words before shouting at us to get out. And that was it. Funny thing was, Dave never understood why it was so funny. When was this? Did parents know? Private schools don't typically adhere to the same regulations as public schools. I received many a smack or swat, even up until I graduated and left. It is a good method of reinforcement. Personally, not for me, but it sets a lot of kids straight. Parents know what they're signing up for when they send their kiddos off to schools like that. Source: am former Catholic schoolgirl. In high school, one of my teachers was having a disagreement with a student. I can't remember what it was about, but finally the teacher asked him if she wanted to call his mother. The student replies, "Do it then. My mama will agree with me too." The teacher then asks him to leave her class. He goes, "You know what? I'm going to call my mom for you." He then whips out his cell phone and calls his mom on speaker. "Hey Ma, this teacher wants to speak to you." The whole class just lost it. My wife, when she was in high school, had a PE teacher that pulled this kind of thing. The class was doing some exercises, but my wife kept finishing them faster than the lazier students. So she would be standing there waiting around for the rest of the students to finish. The teacher accused her of not doing them. My wife said she had done them, and they argued back and forth a bit. The teacher then decided to call my wife's father to get her in trouble or something. The teacher actually got a hold of him on speakerphone so the whole class could listen. The teacher tells him about how your daughter says she's finished her exercises but is clearly lying and won't do more exercises or something. My father-in-law, who was a partner in a very successful business law firm, listens quietly through the whole thing and then responds with, "My normal billing rate is large number of dollars per hour. Don't waste my time with this crap. If my daughter says she did the exercises, then she did them. Don't ever call me again," and then hung up. The teacher immediately told everyone to get back to their exercises for the day and never brought it up again. My buddies and I used to like to play ultimate frisbee on the football field during lunch. We were told not to. Organized sports were supposed to be that, organized. They didn't want kids getting hurt without supervision. Anyway, one day we said screw it and decided to do it anyway. So they turned the sprinklers on us. Didn't stop us. We kept playing, and finally they sent a security guard out to get us. Detention for the rest of the day in the cold cafeteria. Soaked and cold, so we started chattering and talking. But it's hard to stay quiet when you're shivering. Anyway, the coach watching over detention told everyone to shut up. You all sound like a bunch of canaries in a cage. Everyone got silent. Then one person started it, and it slowly grew. Cheep, 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 cheep. Moo. Baha. Yeehaw, yeehaw. The coach couldn't help but start laughing, then turned the air even colder. Bastard. We used to do this to our German teacher. One of us would make a high-pitched yip. A few seconds later, somebody else would yip. Then a third person, more quickly. Soon, half the class would be continuously yipping, while our affable but frustrated teacher tried to make us calm down. I've taught preschool for years, and one of my favorite dad responses to children who are being whiny just to whine is the, "Hi, blank, I'm your teacher." For example, "I'm thirsty." "Hi, thirsty, I'm your teacher." Anyway, one day after a long week, I sat down to lunch with my class, preschool, remember 4 and 5-year-olds, and say to a child, we'll call him Tommy, "Boy, Tommy, I'm really tired today." Without skipping a beat, he swallows his mac and cheese, looks me right in the eyes and says, "Hi, really tired, I'm Tommy." That was the day I knew I had taught them all I could. I'm a preschool teacher too, and for some reason that age group getting humor is the funniest thing ever. We have a student who has English as a second language, and one day as he was eating his lunch, he announced to the group, "I'm really liking this smashed potato." Cue Ben sitting next to him snorting mashed potato out of his nose. Not a teacher, but this happened in an upper-level French class where you can only speak French. If you speak English, the teacher scolds you in French. My friend walked in a few minutes late for a quiz and wasn't allowed to take it. My friend looked at the teacher and said in English, "That's BS." The teacher looked back angrily and said, also in English, "What did you just say?" My friend, "En français, monsieur." He got kicked out of the class. In French class, we had one guy say to his friend, "Oh, you bastard," right as the teacher walked in front of them and the whole class got quiet. We thought they were in for it. Instead, she goes, "En français, c'est bête." In middle school, in history class, this happened. Girl, "Hey, Mr. C, how do you spell word eater?" Mr. C, D-I-C-T-I-O-N-A-R-Y. She writes it down, stares at it for a moment, trying to comprehend why it doesn't look right. Gets pissed at teacher. Class is dying. Teacher laughing as well. I always wondered how you're supposed to look up in a book a word you don't know how to spell. Like, sure, you've probably got the first letter, so you know roughly which section it's in, but after that, it could be basically anywhere as far as you know. Basically anywhere. Who put knife in with the K's? Not me, but a colleague told me this story. It was one of his first years teaching, so he was just about 22 to 24 at the time. It was a junior high science class, and he told a student to stop messing around and get back to work. The student's response? Man, I got older than you. My sister, who is a teacher, was taking her kindergarten class through the lunch line. Well, this day was St. Patrick's Day, so there were green cupcakes. My sister told the class jokingly, "Don't eat too many cupcakes or you'll turn green." A young black boy looks up at her and says, "Miss Carey, I ain't never seen a green brother before." Teacher said, "Now, where is my cow?" Friend blurted out, "In my field." In biology during high school, the teacher was teaching us about food chains. In a very the house Jack built manner, he got to cats eat mice, but what eats cats? Although he was referring to fleas, I, being Chinese, immediately said, "Chinese people." The class burst out in laughter, but then I had to stand up and apologize to all the Chinese people. In men's choir in college, we were singing The Little Drummer Boy. The director stopped our singing and explained something to us. He got distracted and went off on a tangent for about 5 to 7 minutes. Then he pulled himself back around but couldn't remember where he had stopped. He asked himself out loud, now, where were we?" Someone in the basses said, "I think we were on a pum." The whole choir just lost it. I was showing Cosmos in a break between classes, and one kid seemed particularly enthralled by the tardigrade, so his wise-ass friend goes, "Small minds are amused by small things." The kid retorted, "Why do you think I hang out with you?" The whole class went bananas, and even I went over and high-fived that kid. It was a great class. The victim was laughing as hard as anyone. I missed those kids.